The Galactic Food Distribution Center buzzed with the energy of countless workers and machines. With metallic sounds echoing in the cavernous space, the air was rich with the aroma of various alien cuisines, which ranged from the tantalizingly sweet to the off-puttingly pungent. Alex Rodriguez, a human food inspector, stood in the midst of this bustling environment, his brow furrowed in concentration. He had earned a reputation for being meticulous and dedicated to ensuring food safety, traits that were essential in a place where the food from distant planets mingled with the diverse smells and tastes of the galaxy. As he moved through the aisles of crates and containers, Alex felt a familiar sense of purpose. His job was crucial, especially in an age where alien species frequently imported exotic foods to Earth and vice versa. Each shipment was a potential treasure trove of flavors, but it also carried the risk of contamination and disease. Today, Alex was scheduled to inspect one of the largest shipments received from a distant planet known for its vibrant food market. The anticipation of what he might discover filled him with both excitement and trepidation. His inspection began as always, with the careful opening of the first container. Glistening fruits, brightly colored spices, and intricately packaged delicacies greeted him, each more unusual than the last. Alex noted the labels, checking for any discrepancies in the documentation. He had learned to trust his instincts over the years, and something about this shipment felt off. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but an unsettling feeling settled in the pit of his stomach. It was a sensation that had saved him from potential disasters in the past, and he was determined to let it guide him again. As he continued his inspection, the sounds of the center became a backdrop to his thoughts. The whirring of machines, the chatter of workers, and the distant clang of metal containers seemed to fade away as he focused intently on the task at hand. There was a rhythm to the job, one he had mastered over the years: check the temperature controls, verify the contents, and look for any signs of damage or contamination. However, today, the routine felt heavier. Alex leaned closer to one of the containers, a bright green fruit that looked innocuous enough. But as he took a deep breath, a strange odor wafted from it, a scent he had never encountered before. It was faint yet unmistakable, a mix of sweetness laced with something sour, almost rancid. His heart raced as he recalled a recent report about an illness affecting several alien species, an outbreak that had caused widespread panic. Could this shipment be connected? He straightened up, glancing around to see if anyone else had noticed the smell. The workers continued their tasks, oblivious to his growing concern. Alex knew he had to act quickly. The consequences of inaction could be dire. If the fruit was contaminated, it could lead to an outbreak that might spread beyond the center and into the wider community. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. If you are enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Alex took a deep breath, grounding himself. He needed to remain calm and focused. It was time to dig deeper. He reached for his toolkit, pulling out the instruments he always carried for such inspections. As he gathered his tools, he felt the weight of responsibility settle upon him. It wasn't just about following protocol, it was about the lives that could be affected by his findings. As Alex prepared to conduct a more thorough examination, he allowed his thoughts to drift. What if he reported this? Would he face backlash from the distributors? They were well connected and powerful, and they would not appreciate any delays or complications. But the thought of ignoring the potential danger gnawed at him. He had sworn an oath to protect public health, and that oath meant everything to him. His internal conflict played out like a battle in his mind. On one hand, he had his career and the respect of his peers to consider. On the other, he had a duty to the community and the safety of countless beings who might consume the contaminated fruit. If he failed to act, the repercussions could be catastrophic. The pressure mounted as he weighed his options, knowing that the clock was ticking. With a determined nod to himself, he resolved to conduct a detailed analysis of the fruit. He carefully opened the container, ensuring he had all necessary precautions in place. As he examined the contents, his heart raced with both fear and resolve. He had trained for moments like this, but nothing could prepare him for the weight of the decisions he had to make. Alex began testing the samples, carefully documenting each step. His hands moved with precision, the tools were an extension of his will. He needed to be thorough, and every detail mattered. If there was something wrong, he needed concrete evidence to support his findings. He couldn't afford any mistakes. The stakes were too high. As he worked, he thought back to the stories he had heard about inspectors who had overlooked signs of contamination, only to face the consequences later. The community had a way of turning against those who failed in their duty. But he also reflected on the stories of inspectors who had bravely flagged potentially dangerous shipments and prevented disasters. In that moment, he felt a surge of determination. He would not let fear dictate his actions. The tension in the air was palpable, and with each passing second, the gravity of the situation weighed heavier on him. He focused on the task at hand, moving from one fruit to another, testing for pathogens and contaminants. The results would soon reveal whether his fears were justified. As he continued his work, the bustling sounds of the center faded again into the background, leaving only the rhythmic beeping of his equipment and the quiet resolve in his heart. Alex knew that whatever happened next, he was prepared to face it head-on. This was more than just a job, it was a commitment to safety and the well-being of others. And with that thought guiding him, he pressed forward into the unknown, ready to uncover the truth hidden within that shipment. The unusual odor intensified as Alex continued his inspection, and he couldn't shake the feeling of dread creeping into his gut. He had been a food inspector long enough to recognize that this was no ordinary shipment. The faint sweetness mixed with the rancid undertones hung in the air like a warning bell. Each breath felt heavier than the last as he moved further into the shipment, peering into the containers stacked high around him. He could see the brightly colored fruits, their skins glistening under the artificial lights of the Galactic Food Distribution Center. They looked beautiful, almost too perfect. But Alex had learned that appearances could be deceiving. With a deep breath, he focused on the task at hand, determined to uncover the truth behind the odor that had drawn his attention. If you are enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. As he reached for a piece of fruit, he felt a wave of hesitation wash over him. What if he was wrong? What if this shipment was perfectly fine, and he was about to ruin someone's business? The alien distributors were always eager to push products through the center, and any report of contamination could lead to significant backlash. But the thought of ignoring the potential threat gnawed at him. Could he really live with himself if he let something dangerous slip through his fingers? He shook his head, clearing his thoughts. No, he couldn't let fear dictate his actions. The safety of the community relied on his vigilance, and he had a duty to protect those who would consume the food from this shipment. After all, he had sworn an oath to uphold food safety standards, and that oath weighed heavily on him. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled out his testing equipment, each tool meticulously organized in his kit. He had trained for moments like this, but this situation felt different. There was an urgency in the air, a need to act swiftly before things spiraled out of control. As he prepared to conduct a more thorough examination, he recalled the recent reports of sickness among various alien species. The disease had spread rapidly, leaving devastation in its wake. The last thing he wanted was for the people in his community to become victims of a similar outbreak. He had seen firsthand the chaos that could ensue from a foodborne illness, and he wasn't willing to take that risk. Alex carefully took a sample from the container, using his tools to extract a small piece of fruit. He placed it in a sterile vial and began the testing process. Each step was methodical, his focus narrowing to the task at hand. The beeping of the equipment filled the quiet space around him, a constant reminder of the gravity of his actions. He meticulously documented everything, his heart pounding as he waited for the results to unfold. The minutes felt like hours as he watched the readings on the screen fluctuate. The equipment began to beep more rapidly, and his heart sank. The initial tests indicated the presence of something that shouldn't be there. Panic surged through him, but he steeled himself. He couldn't let fear cloud his judgment, he needed concrete evidence. As he continued testing, he felt a mix of anger and determination. How could anyone allow such a shipment to even reach this point? It infuriated him that profit could overshadow the health and safety of countless beings. He recalled the conversations he had had with his colleagues about the importance of thorough inspections, about how one missed detail could lead to disaster. With each passing moment, Alex became more convinced that this shipment needed to be reported. But how would he communicate this to the distributors? They were known for their aggressive tactics, and he could already imagine the backlash he would face. It was a precarious balance, protecting the community while risking his own reputation. Yet, as he glanced at the equipment, confirming the readings were consistent, he felt a rush of resolve. He had to do the right thing. After an agonizing wait, the results were clear: there was contamination. The pathogen detected was dangerous, and if this shipment made it into the hands of consumers, it could lead to a public health crisis, a plague that could spread like wildfire. The realization hit him like a wave, and he felt his hands shake as he documented everything meticulously. He needed to present his findings clearly and with authority. As he packed up his equipment, he glanced around the bustling distribution center, the hum of activity contrasting starkly with the turmoil inside him. Workers moved about, unaware of the potential disaster looming over their heads. The weight of his responsibility felt heavier than ever. He couldn't ignore the urgency of the situation, and with each step he took toward his supervisor's office, he felt a growing sense of dread. The corridor seemed to stretch endlessly, and Alex's heart raced as he approached the door. He knocked lightly, but the sound felt deafening in the quiet hall. When he entered, he was met with the familiar sight of his supervisor, an experienced inspector whose expression was often stern but fair. "Alex, what's the matter?" she asked, looking up from her desk, concern etched on her face. With a deep breath, he laid out his findings, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I found something in the latest shipment. There's a contamination risk, something that could potentially lead to a widespread plague." He watched her face closely, searching for any hint of disbelief or doubt. His supervisor's brow furrowed as she listened, her expression shifting from concern to a serious contemplation. "You're sure about this?" she asked, her tone cautious. "We can't afford any mistakes, Alex. The distributors will fight back if we halt this shipment." He nodded, his chest tightening at her words. He understood the implications of his findings, but he also knew that the alternative was unthinkable. "I'm sure. The readings are clear. If we don't act, we could put countless lives at risk." The tension in the room was palpable as his supervisor considered his words. She sighed deeply, and Alex could see the weight of responsibility resting on her shoulders. "All right, we'll need to conduct further tests and document everything. But be prepared for backlash. The distributors won't take this lightly." As she spoke, Alex felt a mix of relief and anxiety. He had taken the first step toward protecting the community, but he knew the road ahead would be challenging. The fight to uphold food safety standards was just beginning, and he was ready to stand his ground. His determination solidified as he realized that he could no longer ignore the potential consequences of his actions. The stakes were higher than ever, and he was prepared to face whatever came next. The hum of machinery filled the air as Alex Rodriguez continued his inspection of the shipment, each beep and whirring sound a reminder of the gravity of his task. He moved methodically down the rows of containers, the sharp aroma of various alien foods wafting through the air. Everything seemed routine until he stumbled upon a particular container that felt out of place. As he approached, a pungent odor began to seep into his nostrils, something distinctly off, a mix of something rancid and something sweet, a combination that sent alarms ringing in his mind. He squinted at the markings on the container, his brows furrowing. This shipment had come from a planet known for its exotic delicacies, but Alex had read the reports. There had been whispers in the air about a strange illness affecting several species, and the last thing he wanted was to overlook a potential threat. He recalled the briefings he had attended, where they discussed the symptoms: bizarre rashes, severe fatigue, and in extreme cases, rapid organ failure. The thought of such a plague entering the unsuspecting community sent chills down his spine. With a deep breath, Alex pulled on a pair of gloves and opened the container. The sight within was alarming. The colorful food items, once vibrant and tempting, were now marred by an unsettling discoloration, some containers showing signs of bubbling or oozing. "This can't be good," he muttered under his breath, shaking his head in disbelief. He quickly took samples, carefully documenting everything on his tablet while trying to suppress the rising tide of panic. If this shipment was contaminated, it could spell disaster. As he worked, his mind raced. Reporting this could mean halting the shipment and incurring the wrath of the distributors. They were known for their aggressive strategies to push their products, often prioritizing profit over safety. Alex could already envision their faces, the indignation burning in their eyes as they protested against what they would surely call a baseless accusation. But the weight of his responsibility overshadowed any fear of backlash. He had to ensure the safety of the community, even if it meant standing alone against powerful forces. "Hey, Alex! You all right in there?" A voice broke through his concentration, and he turned to see his colleague, Jenna, standing at the entrance of the storage area. Her face was marked by curiosity, and a hint of concern flickered in her eyes. "You've been in here for a while. Is everything okay with the shipment?" "Not really," he replied, his voice low as he glanced around to ensure no one else was within earshot. "I think we've got a serious problem. This container," he gestured towards the one that had caught his attention, "it's contaminated. I need to report it." Jenna's expression shifted, her brow wrinkling in concern. "Are you sure? I mean, you know how the distributors can be. They won't take this lightly." "I know," Alex said, feeling the weight of her words. "But if I don't act now, it could lead to a serious health crisis. I can't just sit back and do nothing." His resolve solidified as he looked into her eyes. "I'd rather face their anger than be responsible for an outbreak." She nodded slowly, her lips pressing together in contemplation. "Okay, I get it. Just be careful, all right? You know how they react when someone tries to stop their shipments. They can be ruthless." "Thanks, Jenna. I appreciate it." With that, she stepped back, leaving him alone with his thoughts once again. The hum of the machinery felt louder now, the urgency of the moment pressing down on him. He quickly finished documenting his findings, noting the specific symptoms associated with the contaminated food items. He needed to present a compelling case to his supervisor, one that could withstand the inevitable pushback. As he gathered his equipment, his mind raced through the possible consequences of his actions. If he reported this contamination, it could lead to a full-scale investigation, and the distributors would lose a massive shipment, one that they had likely invested heavily in. The thought of their livelihoods being threatened made his stomach churn, yet he had to remind himself that it was about the greater good. He could not let profit dictate safety, not when lives were potentially at stake. The path to his supervisor's office felt longer than usual as he walked through the bustling distribution center. Employees moved about, their chatter a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling in his mind. He approached the door, hesitating for a moment before knocking. He took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. This was it. He had to advocate not just for himself, but for everyone who could be affected by this shipment. "Come in," came the voice from inside. He pushed open the door, stepping into the office where his supervisor, a seasoned inspector named Margaret, sat reviewing reports. Her gaze lifted, and concern flickered across her features as she noted the expression on his face. "Alex, what's going on?" she asked, setting her tablet down. "Margaret, I need to talk to you about the latest shipment," he began, his voice steady though his heart raced. "There's contamination in one of the containers. I believe it poses a serious health risk." "Contamination," she echoed, her brow furrowing in disbelief. "Are you certain? You know how serious that claim is." "I am sure," he insisted, urgency creeping into his tone. "I found signs that could lead to a plague if it reaches the public. The last thing we want is an outbreak on our hands." Margaret leaned back, her expression shifting to one of contemplation. "This is a big accusation, Alex. We have to be ready for the distributors' reaction. They won't take this lightly." "I understand," he said, taking a step closer to her desk. "But we have to prioritize public safety. If we don't act, it could lead to a crisis." His voice dropped to a whisper, "We could be responsible for a lot of suffering." The room was silent for a moment as Margaret considered his words. Finally, she nodded slowly. "All right, let's proceed with caution. We'll need to do further tests to confirm your findings. But remember, this could lead to significant backlash. Are you prepared for that?" Alex took a deep breath, nodding firmly. "I am." We have to protect the community, regardless of the fallout. He felt a rush of determination, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The stakes were high, but he was prepared to stand his ground. As they began formulating a plan for the next steps, Alex felt a sense of purpose wash over him. He was ready to confront the complexities of his role, to ensure that safety would always come first, no matter the cost. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. After all, this was not just about a shipment, it was about safeguarding lives. The tension in the air thickened as Alex faced the alien distributor, a tall being clad in shimmering blue scales that reflected the fluorescent lights of the Galactic Food Distribution Center. The distributor's name was Zeldar, and he had a reputation for being persuasive, often bending rules to ensure his shipments passed through with minimal scrutiny. Today, however, Alex was determined to stand his ground. "Listen, Zeldar," Alex said, his voice steady but firm. "I've found contamination in this shipment. We can't just send it out for distribution. It poses a significant health risk. You have to understand the implications here." Zeldar's eyes narrowed, the iridescent surfaces glinting with annoyance. "You humans are always so dramatic. Contamination? My goods are perfectly fine. You cannot possibly expect me to believe that a few odors warrant halting an entire shipment. This will ruin my business." Alex felt his pulse quicken. "It's not just about you. It's about the health of everyone who consumes this food. If I let this go through, and people get sick, it will be on my conscience. I can't allow that to happen." "Your conscience?" Zeldar echoed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You will jeopardize an entire trade agreement over your conscience? What will your superiors say when they hear of this? You'll be the one facing the backlash, not me." Alex clenched his fists, trying to keep his composure. "I have to report this. I won't put lives at risk for profit, Zeldar. You know that." The distributor leaned closer, his breath carrying the scent of exotic spices mixed with something foul. "You think you are brave, human, but bravery does not pay the bills. You will lose your position over this. They will not support you if you choose to stop this shipment. Think clearly." With every word, Alex felt the pressure building. The stakes were rising, and he could see the flicker of uncertainty in Zeldar's gaze. He wasn't just fighting for his job, he was fighting for the health and safety of countless beings across the galaxy. "I understand the risks," he replied, his voice lower but resolute. "But it's my responsibility to ensure food safety. I cannot compromise on that." Zeldar straightened, his posture rigid. "You are making a grave mistake. The consequences will be severe. I suggest you reconsider." He turned away, a gesture of dismissal that only fueled Alex's determination. "I won't back down," Alex said, his voice rising slightly. "You may think that pushing your shipment through is more important, but if this leads to a plague, it will be on you as much as it is on me." The alien paused, an unreadable expression crossing his face. "You humans are emotional beings. It clouds your judgment. But let me remind you, if you choose to proceed, you will have enemies. Powerful enemies." Alex took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I'd rather face powerful enemies than live with the knowledge that I ignored a serious health risk. I need to escalate this, Zeldar. It's not just about you or your shipment, it's about everyone who could be affected." The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken tension. He could see the anger simmering in Zeldar's eyes, but there was also a flicker of hesitation. Perhaps, somewhere in the layers of bureaucracy and profit margins, the alien understood the gravity of the situation. Zeldar finally spoke, his voice low and menacing. "You will regret this decision, human. I promise you that." With that, he turned and strode away, leaving Alex standing alone, heart racing, but resolute. As the door slid shut behind the distributor, Alex felt a rush of adrenaline. He knew he had to act quickly. The next step was to gather evidence and present his case to his supervisor, Margaret. She would need to understand the urgency of the situation, and Alex was determined to make her see that the safety of the community outweighed any business interests. He hurried to his workstation, the sounds of the bustling distribution center fading into the background. His mind raced as he documented his findings. The unusual odor, the signs of contamination, everything had to be meticulously recorded. If he was going to convince anyone of the severity of the situation, he needed solid evidence. Alex pulled up the relevant reports on his tablet, his fingers moving quickly over the screen. He had to ensure that every detail was documented clearly. He could already envision the pushback from the distributors, the accusations of overreacting, but he pushed those thoughts aside. His focus was on the task at hand. As he compiled the information, he could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He was acutely aware of the lives that could be affected if he failed to act. The idea of a plague spiraling out of control was a nightmare that he couldn't shake. He took a moment to breathe, reminding himself why he became a food inspector in the first place, to protect the community he served. Once he felt ready, he approached Margaret's office with a sense of determination. The door was ajar, and he could hear her voice on the phone, discussing logistics with someone. He took a moment to collect his thoughts before gently knocking. "Come in," Margaret called. He stepped inside, the familiar scent of her coffee mingling with the sterile air of the office. She looked up, her expression shifting from concentration to concern as she recognized the urgency painted on his face. "Alex, what's the matter?" she asked, setting the phone down and giving him her full attention. "Margaret, it's about the shipment from Zelvar," he said, the words tumbling out. "There's contamination. We need to halt it before it goes out." He quickly laid out the details, his voice steady as he presented his evidence. She listened intently, her brow furrowing as he spoke. "Contamination? Are you sure? This is serious, Alex." "I am sure," he insisted, leaning forward slightly. "I found clear signs of contamination in several containers. If we don't act now, we could be facing a health crisis, potentially a plague." Margaret's expression hardened as she processed his words. This could lead to significant backlash from the distributors. "You understand that, right? They won't take this lightly." "I understand," Alex replied, his heart racing with urgency. "But we can't let that deter us. We have a responsibility to the public. If I report this, I am prepared to face any consequences. We need to prioritize safety over profit." She paused, her eyes searching his face for uncertainty, but there was none. "All right, let's proceed with caution. We'll need to run further tests to confirm your findings. But remember, this could lead to significant fallout. Are you prepared for that?" "Absolutely," Alex affirmed, a surge of determination filling him. He felt ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. "We have to do the right thing." As they began to map out the next steps, he felt a sense of purpose settle over him. He was no longer just an inspector, he was a guardian of public health, ready to face the complexities of his role. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There was no turning back now, the stakes were too high, and he was prepared to do everything in his power to protect the community he served. The air in Margaret's office was thick with tension as Alex laid out his findings. The hum of the Galactic Food Distribution Center faded into the background, replaced by the sound of his heartbeat echoing in his ears. He could see the worry etched on Margaret's face. She sat behind her desk, a holographic screen flickering with various data reports, highlighting the urgency of the situation. "Alex, are you sure about this?" Margaret asked, her brow furrowing as she leaned closer to the screen, scrolling through the shipment logs. "This could jeopardize everything. The distributors won't take this lightly." "I know, but we can't ignore the evidence," Alex insisted, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "If we let this shipment go out and it contains that pathogen, we could be looking at a widespread outbreak. Hundreds, maybe thousands, could fall ill." He pointed to the screen displaying the shipment details. "Look at the records. There's been an uptick in illnesses reported from the planet where this shipment originated. We have to act now." Margaret sighed, her fingers tapping nervously on the desk. She had seen her fair share of controversies in the food industry, but this was different. This wasn't just a matter of business, this was about public health.
Okay, let's run more tests. But you understand the implications, right? If we halt this shipment, we're going to face a backlash from the distributors. They're not just going to sit back and accept this. I'm prepared for that, Alex replied, his determination unwavering. I'd rather deal with angry distributors than risk a plague. We have to do the right thing, Margaret. She nodded slowly, the weight of his words sinking in. All right, let's do it. We'll run every test we can and see what we find. But I need you to be ready for what comes next. As they formulated a plan, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was ready to face whatever fallout might come from this decision. He had to remind himself why he had chosen this path. It wasn't just a job, it was a calling. Protecting the community from unsafe food was at the core of who he was. With the plan in place, Alex returned to the inspection area, the atmosphere buzzing with activity. Workers hustled about, preparing shipments for various destinations across the galaxy. He felt a pang of guilt as he watched them, knowing that their livelihoods could be affected by his decision. But he steeled himself, they would understand in the long run. He approached the testing lab, where samples from the suspicious shipment were being prepared for further analysis. The lab was a sterile environment, filled with the sharp scent of antiseptics and the soft whirring of machines. It was here that the truth would be revealed, and Alex hoped he wouldn't be disappointed. As he settled in, he couldn't shake the feeling of dread. What if the tests came back negative? What if he was wrong? The thought gnawed at him, but he pushed it aside. He had done his due diligence, he trusted his instincts and his training. Hours passed as the tests were conducted, and the tension in the lab was palpable. Alex could see the lab technicians working diligently, their expressions focused and serious. Finally, the lead technician, a sharp-eyed alien named Ryler, called him over. Alex, we have the results, Ryler said, his tone grave. You need to see this. The two of them gathered around the holographic display as Ryler pulled up the test results. Alex's heart raced as he scanned the data. The screen lit up with alarming red indicators, confirming his worst fears. Contamination had been detected in multiple samples. This is bad, Ryler said, his voice steady but tinged with concern. The pathogen is highly virulent. If this shipment reaches the public, it could lead to a serious outbreak. Alex felt a wave of nausea wash over him. He had been right all along, but that didn't bring him any comfort. Now he faced an even bigger dilemma: how to communicate this information to the public and the distributors without inciting panic. He took a deep breath, trying to remain composed. We need to prepare a press release. We can't sit on this information. The community has a right to know. Ryler nodded, but Alex could see the apprehension in his eyes. Are you sure that's the best course of action? This could lead to chaos. I understand the risks, Alex replied, his voice firm. But we have to prioritize health and safety. If we don't act, we might be responsible for a plague. I won't let that happen. As they started drafting the press release, Alex reflected on the gravity of the situation. He knew that once they went public, there would be no turning back. The distributors would be furious, and he might face severe backlash from both them and the community. Margaret joined them in the lab, her expression serious. I've been thinking, Alex. We need to consider how we frame this information. It's essential we communicate clearly without inciting panic, but we also need to be honest about the risks. You're right, Alex agreed. We need to strike a balance. We can emphasize the steps we're taking to contain the situation and reassure the public that we're on top of it. But we can't sugarcoat the danger either. Margaret nodded, appreciating his insight. Let's craft a message that underscores our commitment to public health while being transparent about the issues at hand. As they worked collaboratively on the press release, Alex felt a sense of camaraderie building among them. They were all aligned in their goal to protect the community, and that shared mission empowered him. Once the draft was complete, they reviewed it multiple times, ensuring every word was precise and impactful. Finally, with a heavy heart but a clear mind, Alex approved the release. He knew the storm that was about to brew, but he also understood the importance of vigilance in food safety.
If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel, he said, hoping that by sharing this journey, others would recognize the value of their work and the importance of food safety in their community. As they prepared to go public, Alex steeled himself for the coming challenges, knowing that he had done everything he could to prevent a catastrophe. The stakes had never been higher, and he was ready to face whatever came next. As the testing results illuminated the cold, sterile lab, Alex Rodriguez felt his heart drop into a pit of dread. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a sea of red indicators that confirmed his worst fears. The shipment he had suspected was indeed contaminated with a virulent pathogen. The implications of this discovery were staggering, and Alex felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. "This is bad," Ryler, the lead technician, said. His eyes were wide with concern as he scanned the results. "If this gets out, it could lead to a serious outbreak. The contamination is widespread." Alex swallowed hard, trying to steady himself. He had known it would come to this. Still, the reality of the situation felt overwhelming. He had been right, but that didn't ease his anxiety, it only deepened it. Now, he had to figure out how to report this information without causing a panic that could lead to chaos. "Ryler, we need to prepare a press release," Alex said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. "We can't keep this under wraps. The community deserves to know." Ryler hesitated, glancing back at the screen. "Are you sure? This could create a lot of fear. The distributors won't take it well either." "I understand the risks," Alex replied, determination set in his features. "But we have to prioritize health and safety. If we don't act, we might be responsible for a plague. I won't let that happen." As they began drafting the press release, Alex couldn't help but reflect on the gravity of their situation. He knew that going public with this information would ignite a firestorm of backlash. The distributors would likely be furious, and he could be ostracized by the community he was trying to protect. But what was the alternative? Ignoring the truth and risking countless lives? Margaret, a fellow inspector and trusted colleague, joined them in the lab, her expression serious. "I've been thinking, Alex. We need to consider how we frame this information. It's essential that we communicate clearly without inciting panic, but we also need to be honest about the risks involved." "You're right," Alex agreed, grateful for her input. "We need to strike a balance between urgency and reassurance. We can emphasize the steps we're taking to contain the situation and reassure the public that we're on top of it. But we can't sugarcoat the danger." Margaret nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Let's draft a message that underscores our commitment to public health while being transparent about the issues at hand." As they worked collaboratively on the press release, Alex felt a sense of camaraderie building among them. They were all aligned in their goal, to protect the community. This shared mission empowered him, pushing him to work harder, to dig deeper into the nuances of their messaging. Hours passed as they meticulously crafted their statement, reviewing it multiple times to ensure that every word was precise and impactful. They included details about the contamination, the potential health risks, and the steps being taken to address the situation. Finally, Alex felt a heavy weight settle in his chest as he read the final draft. It was time. "If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel," he said, feeling the urgency of their situation underscoring the importance of their work. With a deep breath, Alex approved the release, his heart racing at the thought of the storm that was about to brew. He glanced at Ryler and Margaret, their expressions mirroring his own mix of anxiety and resolve. This was a critical moment, one that could define the future of their community. The press release went live, and almost immediately, the reactions began pouring in. The community was split. Some applauded Alex for his transparency and bravery, while others criticized him for causing panic. The phone rang incessantly, messages flooding in from concerned citizens and angry distributors alike. Each sound was like a nail in his heart, a reminder that he had set something in motion that could change lives forever. "Alex, look at this!" Margaret exclaimed, her eyes glued to her screen. "Social media is blowing up. People are sharing the release, and the comments are all over the place." Alex leaned over her shoulder, scanning the screen filled with a chaotic mix of support and dissent.
It was exactly what he had feared. He had wanted to be honest, to prevent a catastrophe, but now he felt like he was watching his world unravel. As he prepared to address the community, a knot twisted in his stomach. He had always believed in honesty, in the importance of transparency, but he never imagined that doing the right thing could feel so isolating. With every passing minute, the pressure mounted, and the stakes rose higher than he had ever anticipated. Just then, a call came through from a local news station. The reporter's voice crackled through the speaker, and Alex could hear the tension in her tone. "Mr. Rodriguez, we'd like to get your comments on the situation. What do you have to say to those who feel you've overreacted?" Alex took a deep breath. "I understand the concerns. But the truth is, we cannot afford to be complacent when it comes to public health. We have a responsibility to protect our community, and that means taking action when necessary, even if it's uncomfortable." There was a pause on the other end, and he could sense the reporter's surprise. "So you stand by your decision to go public?" "Absolutely," he replied firmly. "I would rather face backlash than be responsible for a widespread illness. The truth matters, and people need to know." After hanging up, Alex shared a look with Margaret. "This is just the beginning," he said, the gravity of their choices weighing heavily on him. As they continued to monitor the situation, Alex received an urgent message from a local healthcare provider. A family had reported symptoms consistent with the illness linked to the contaminated shipment. His gut twisted at the thought. He had feared this would happen, and now it was unfolding before his eyes. "We need to act fast," he said, urgency flooding his voice. "We need to collaborate with healthcare professionals to monitor the situation and prevent a potential outbreak." Margaret nodded, her determination matching his. "Let's gather as much information as we can and coordinate resources. We can't afford to wait." Together, they began to mobilize, reaching out to healthcare teams and gathering data on the affected family. It was a race against time, and Alex felt the weight of every decision pressing down on him. He wanted to ensure that the community could trust them to handle this crisis, to know that they were doing everything they could to protect them. With every call and every piece of information gathered, the urgency of the situation became clearer. Alex knew that their work was far from over. They had to remain vigilant, ready to respond to whatever challenges lay ahead. His resolve hardened, they would not let this situation spiral out of control. They would fight for their community, every step of the way. As Alex sat at his desk, the flickering holographic display illuminating his face with an eerie glow, he felt the weight of the decision he had made. The press release announcing the contamination of the shipment was now public, and the silence that followed was deafening. It felt as though the air around him was charged with tension, every second ticking by like a countdown to an impending storm. He ran a hand through his hair, glancing at the clock that seemed to mock him with its slow movement. "If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel," he muttered under his breath, trying to shake off the anxiety that was creeping in. He needed to focus, there was far too much at stake to let his mind wander. Margaret, his dedicated assistant, was glued to her terminal, her fingers flying over the keys as she monitored the incoming responses. "Alex, you might want to see this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He stood up, striding over to her workstation. The screen displayed a flurry of activity from social media platforms, where people were sharing the press release and commenting on it. "It's all over the place," she continued, her eyes wide. "Some are praising you for your integrity, while others are furious, saying you're inciting panic." Alex felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He had anticipated backlash, but seeing it unfold in real time made it feel much more real. The criticisms ranged from accusations of incompetence to claims that he was sabotaging the local economy. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. "Let's focus on the facts," he said, trying to command a sense of calm that he didn't quite feel. "We need to prepare for any fallout. I'll need you to draft a follow-up statement addressing the concerns directly. We have to reassure the community about the steps we're taking." Margaret nodded, already typing away, her expression serious. "I'll highlight the importance of public health and how we're coordinating with local healthcare providers. The community needs to know we're on their side." "Exactly," Alex replied, appreciating her quick thinking. And we need to emphasize that being proactive is not only responsible but necessary. It's better to be safe than sorry. Just then, a notification pinged on Alex's terminal.
It was an urgent message from a local healthcare provider.
A family had reported symptoms consistent with the illness linked to the contaminated shipment.
His heart sank as he read the details. "We've got a situation," he said, his voice grave.
"A family is showing symptoms. We need to mobilize quickly."
The urgency of the moment struck him like a lightning bolt, igniting a fire within him. Margaret's face paled slightly.
"What should we do?" "We need to collaborate with the healthcare professionals immediately."
"Let's gather as much information as we can, coordinate resources, and ensure they're being monitored closely," he instructed, his mind racing through the steps they needed to take. Without hesitation, they began reaching out to local health departments, scheduling meetings, and preparing for the worst. The clock was ticking, and each passing moment felt like a countdown to potential disaster.
"We can't afford to wait," Alex emphasized as they worked. "This could spread if we don't act fast. We have to be vigilant."
As they made calls, connected with healthcare providers, and gathered data, Alex could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had made the right choice in going public, but the consequences were now manifesting in ways he hadn't fully grasped at the time. "We'll need to set up a monitoring system for anyone who might have consumed the contaminated food," Margaret suggested, her voice steady despite the escalating situation.
"And we should prepare for the media to ask about this family. They'll want answers."
"Right," Alex agreed, his mind racing through the logistics. "Let's ensure we have a clear plan in place before any reporters come knocking."
"We need to control the narrative."
As they finalized their communications strategy, Alex's phone buzzed with a new message.
It was from a local news outlet.
"They want a statement from you regarding the family's symptoms," Margaret said, glancing at the screen.
"Of course they do," he muttered, pacing the small office. "Let's make sure our response is clear and compassionate. We need to demonstrate that we care about the health of our community."
"I will not let fear dictate our actions."
He took a deep breath, centering himself.
"Prepare a statement that highlights our commitment to public health and our readiness to assist the affected family." As he spoke, a surge of determination coursed through him. This was more than just a job, it was about lives. It was about trust, community, and the moral responsibility they held as food inspectors. After a flurry of emails and phone calls, they managed to gather a comprehensive assessment of the family's condition. Alex felt a mix of relief and dread as they prepared to collaborate with healthcare professionals. The family had experienced mild symptoms, but they were still concerning. "Let's ensure they receive the best care possible," he said. "We'll need to provide the healthcare team with all the information we have on the contaminated shipment.
We must act quickly to prevent any further spread."
Margaret nodded, her focus unwavering as she compiled data.
"We're on it, Alex.
We'll make sure they have everything they need." As they worked into the night, the atmosphere shifted from one of anxiety to one of resolve. They were a team, and together they were fighting against an unseen enemy. The community depended on them, and they would not let it down. Alex glanced at Margaret, who was now a vital part of this mission.
"Thank you for your dedication, Margaret. I couldn't do this without you."
"Just doing my job, Alex," she replied, a hint of a smile breaking through her worried expression.
"We're in this together." Their camaraderie was a beacon of hope amidst the chaos.
They each understood the gravity of the situation and the importance of their roles. The clock continued to tick, but they were no longer just reacting. They were preparing, strategizing, and fortifying their defenses. As the first light of dawn began to creep through the office windows, Alex felt a newfound sense of determination. They were not just inspectors, they were guardians of public health. And together, they would fight to keep their community safe. The press release went live, echoing across the Galactic Food Distribution Center and beyond, sparking reactions that Alex had both anticipated and feared. As he watched the numbers roll in, indicating the reach of their announcement, he felt a mix of relief and anxiety tightrope walking in his chest. News outlets quickly picked up the story, with headlines varying from supportive to sensationalist. Some praised him for his vigilance, while others criticized him for inciting panic among the community. The room buzzed with activity as his colleagues monitored the flurry of messages flooding in.
"Did you see this one?"
Margaret called, her eyes wide as she pointed at a screen displaying a tweet from a local influencer.
"They're calling you a hero."
"Or a villain," Alex murmured, glancing at another post from a local food blogger who had taken a more critical stance.
"It's a mixed bag.
I didn't do this for fame, I did it for the community."
Margaret nodded, her expression serious. "Still, the support is overwhelming.
People are starting to realize the potential risks.
This could help prevent others from falling ill."
As more reports surfaced about the affected family, Alex felt a weight settle on his shoulders. He had acted decisively, but now the reality of what that meant was sinking in. He wondered how the family was coping, and he felt an urgent need to reach out to them, to validate their experience and offer any assistance he could. With a deep breath, he turned to Margaret.
"Can we send someone to check on them?
I want to make sure they're getting the care they need." "Absolutely," she replied, already pulling up contact information. "I can coordinate with the healthcare team. They're setting up monitoring for anyone who consumed the contaminated food, including the family." As they worked, the tension in the air shifted. It wasn't just about the press release anymore, it was about human lives, real people who were now facing the consequences of a decision Alex had made. He felt a surge of responsibility.
"I never thought I'd be in a situation like this," he admitted. "What if we can't contain it? What if this escalates?" Margaret placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You did the right thing, Alex.
We can't control what others think, but we can control our response.
Just remember, the community is rallying behind you. They appreciate your integrity."
The support was heartening, yet Alex couldn't shake the nagging fear that had settled in the back of his mind.
As the hours passed, reports continued to stream in.
Some people were showing mild symptoms, but healthcare professionals assured them it was manageable. The situation was under control for now. "Look at this," Margaret said, her voice filled with excitement as she pointed to another screen.
"A local restaurant is offering free meals to the family affected.
They're encouraging people to donate what they can to help."
Alex couldn't help but smile at the outpouring of generosity. "That's amazing. It's good to see the community come together like this."
"Yes, and it's a reminder of why we do what we do," she replied, her eyes shining with pride.
"You've sparked a movement, Alex.
Your actions are encouraging others to take food safety seriously." Just then, his phone buzzed with a message from a local journalist wanting to interview him for a piece about the incident. Taking a deep breath, he accepted the request. "I'll do it," he said, determination flooding through him. "I want to make sure people understand the importance of food safety and the role we play in protecting them." The interview was scheduled for the following day, and Alex felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. He knew he had to articulate the gravity of the situation without causing unnecessary alarm. He had to be honest about the risks while also emphasizing the community's resilience. As they wrapped up their day, Alex and Margaret decided to take a moment to reflect. Sitting in the break room, they shared a cup of coffee, the rich aroma filling the air.
"You know, I've been thinking," Alex began, "about how interconnected we all are. One decision can ripple through the community in ways we can't even begin to imagine." Margaret nodded thoughtfully. "Absolutely. It's like a chain reaction. You took a stand, and now look at the response."
People are beginning to realize that food safety isn't just a job, it's a shared responsibility.
"Right," he said, his mind racing with possibilities. "If we can keep this conversation going, maybe we can prevent future incidents. Maybe we can make people care more about what they eat."
"That's the spirit," Margaret encouraged.
"Let's use this momentum to educate.
We could set up workshops or community sessions to teach families about food safety practices."
Alex's eyes brightened at the idea. "Yes. We can partner with local health departments and schools.
We can create a program that empowers families to make safer food choices." With renewed energy, they brainstormed ideas, jotting down notes on a piece of paper. The vision of a community united in health and safety began to take shape, and Alex felt a sense of purpose washing over him. They weren't just inspectors, they were catalysts for change. As night fell, the atmosphere in the Galactic Food Distribution Center shifted. What had begun as a crisis was transforming into an opportunity for growth and education. The press coverage continued to roll in, with each report highlighting the need for vigilance in food safety. As he prepared to leave for the day, Alex stood at the entrance, gazing out at the stars twinkling against the dark sky. He felt a renewed sense of hope. If we can turn this situation into something positive, maybe we can truly make a difference. Margaret joined him, her expression thoughtful. You're right. It all starts with one person taking a stand. Your decision saved lives, Alex. And it's inspiring others to do the same. A sense of camaraderie and purpose enveloped them as they stepped outside. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you updated on how our community comes together in the face of challenges, Alex said, feeling a surge of excitement as they embraced the unknown future ahead. Together, they walked into the night, ready to face whatever came next, armed with determination, hope, and the unwavering support of their community. As the situation unfolded, the family that had consumed the contaminated food began to show symptoms of the mysterious illness. It started with mild discomfort, nausea, headaches, and fatigue, but as the hours passed, their condition worsened. Alex Rodriguez could hardly sit still at his desk in the Galactic Food Distribution Center, feeling a gnawing sense of responsibility and guilt deep within him. He had warned the authorities, but now he feared it was too late for some. Margaret, have you heard the latest updates? He called out to his colleague, who was poring over some reports. She looked up, worry etched across her face. Yes, there are reports of a family in the East Sector showing symptoms. They've been advised to seek medical attention, but, her voice trailed off, the concern palpable in the air. But what? Alex pressed, his heart racing. They're hesitant. They don't want to be seen as troublemakers, especially after everything that's happened, she replied, shaking her head. Alex felt a wave of frustration mixed with helplessness wash over him. We need to get them help, now. They can't just sit there and wait for it to get worse. Without another moment's hesitation, he grabbed his communicator and sent a message to the local health department, urging them to prioritize the case and send a medical team immediately. He couldn't bear the thought of anyone else suffering because of a shipment he had tried to stop. As he waited for a response, he paced the small office. Memories of the family flashed through his mind, their laughter during the community picnic, the way they had offered him a slice of their homemade pie when he had inspected their restaurant. He felt a profound regret for not acting more decisively when he had first suspected something was wrong. Alex, we need to talk, Margaret's voice broke through his thoughts. She was standing in the doorway, her expression serious. He nodded, inviting her in, and they both sat down. What's on your mind? We need to think about how we can support that family. They're facing a lot right now, and we should be proactive, she suggested. I agree. We can't just sit here and wait for someone else to take action, Alex replied, determination creeping back into his voice. Margaret's eyes sparkled with resolve. What if we set up a support network? We could mobilize the community to help them. Meal deliveries, emotional support, whatever they need. That's a great idea, Alex responded, feeling a flicker of hope. We can reach out to local organizations and see if they can provide resources. We can even contact the press to raise awareness about the situation. As they began to outline their plan, Alex felt the weight on his shoulders lighten slightly. They had the power to make a difference, to turn the tide of this crisis into something positive. The community had always been tightly knit, and now it was essential to harness that spirit of togetherness. Margaret reached for her tablet and started drafting a message to local charities and food banks. We should emphasize the importance of food safety in our outreach. If we can inform people about the risks while also encouraging them to help, it could be a game changer. Yes. We need to make it clear that this is not just about one family, it's about ensuring everyone's safety, Alex added, feeling a surge of inspiration. And we should encourage people to share their stories, to raise awareness about food safety. Margaret smiled, her enthusiasm infectious.
I'll handle the outreach. You focus on monitoring the family's situation and coordinating with the health department.
With their plan in motion, Alex returned to his desk, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he drafted an update for the community. We've discovered a potential health risk associated with a recent food shipment.
We are urging everyone to be vigilant and to report any symptoms. It's crucial that we work together to ensure the safety of our community.
Just as he hit send, his communicator beeped with an incoming message. It was from the health department, confirming that a medical team was en route to assist the family. Relief washed over him, but it was quickly replaced with a sense of urgency.
Margaret!
They're sending help, he called out, his heart racing with a mix of joy and concern.
Great!
Let's keep tabs on their progress, she replied, her eyes shining with determination. As they monitored the situation, Alex couldn't shake the feeling of anxiety that gnawed at him.
What if the help arrived too late? What if it spread beyond the family?
The stakes were higher than ever, and he knew he had to act quickly to contain the situation. Suddenly, the phone rang, breaking through his thoughts. It was a local journalist wanting to interview him regarding the situation.
After a brief hesitation, he agreed. I'll do it.
I want to make sure people understand the importance of food safety and the role we play in protecting them, Alex declared, his voice steady. As he prepared for the interview, he reflected on the gravity of the situation. It was essential to communicate both the seriousness of the contamination and the immediate actions being taken. He wanted to inspire others to take food safety seriously, to understand that it wasn't just a job, it was a collective responsibility. The interview was set for the following day, and Alex felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him. He knew he needed to articulate the risks without inciting panic. It was a delicate balance to strike, and he hoped he could do justice to the community's concerns. That evening, as he wrapped up his day, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had the chance to turn this crisis into an opportunity to educate and empower the community. He stood at the entrance of the Galactic Food Distribution Center, looking out at the stars twinkling against the dark sky. With his mind racing, he thought about the lives at stake and the importance of vigilance in food safety. Let's keep this momentum going, he said to Margaret, who had joined him at the entrance.
If we can turn this situation into something positive, we can truly make a difference. Margaret nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. We need to remember that our actions today can prevent future incidents.
As they stepped out into the night, a sense of camaraderie enveloped them. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you updated on our efforts and how our community comes together in the face of challenges, Alex said, feeling hopeful about the road ahead. With determination in their hearts, they walked forward, ready to face whatever came next, united by their commitment to the health and safety of their community. The community rallied together in ways that Alex Rodriguez had only ever dreamed of witnessing. It was as if the crisis had ignited a spark of unity among the residents of the Galactic Food Distribution Center. Neighbors who had barely exchanged pleasantries were now coordinating efforts to support the family affected by the contaminated shipment. The air buzzed with a mix of determination and compassion, a palpable energy that hung heavy with hope. Alex stood at the center of it all, observing the transformation as volunteers distributed care packages filled with non-perishable foods and essential supplies. The scent of freshly baked goods wafted through the air, mingling with the aroma of spiced soups prepared by local chefs eager to lend a hand. Everywhere he looked, people were coming together, and it warmed his heart to see how quickly they responded to the urgent need. Margaret, his trusted colleague and friend, approached him with a wide smile.
"Look at this, Alex."
"It's incredible," she exclaimed, her voice barely audible over the laughter and chatter surrounding them.
"People are really stepping up. We've even got donations from the local restaurant associations."
Alex nodded, a sense of pride swelling within him. "It's amazing what a little crisis can do to bring people together," he replied, glancing around at the bustling activity. "But it's also a reminder of why we need to prioritize food safety. I just hope this situation doesn't repeat itself." "Absolutely," Margaret agreed, her expression turning serious. "But for now, let's focus on supporting the affected family. They need to know they're not alone." As they moved deeper into the crowd, Alex spotted the family at the heart of it all. The father, a weary-looking man named Lucas, held his young daughter close, gratitude shining in his eyes as the community embraced them. Alex felt a pang of emotion as he witnessed their struggle. He knew the weight of the situation weighed heavily on Lucas, not just from the recent illness but from the fear of losing everything. "Hey, Lucas!" Alex called out, approaching the family. "How are you holding up?" Lucas looked up, relief washing over his face. "We're managing, Alex. Thanks to everyone's support. It's just been overwhelming. I appreciate everything you've done." Alex chuckled lightly, though his heart ached for the man. "I just did what any inspector would do. Keeping the community safe is my job." Lucas nodded, his expression somber. "I know, but it's more than that. You saved lives. My daughter might have been one of them if it hadn't been for your diligence." The little girl, her eyes big and round, clutched a stuffed animal tightly. She looked up at Alex and whispered, "Thank you for helping us." Alex knelt down to her level, smiling gently. "You're very welcome. Just promise me you'll always be careful about what you eat, okay?" She nodded seriously, her small brow furrowed as if she understood the gravity of his words. Just then, a local journalist approached, microphone in hand and camera crew in tow. "Alex, can we get a few words about the community's response?" Alex glanced at Margaret, who gave him an encouraging nod. "Sure, let's do it," he said, straightening his posture. As he stood before the camera, Alex felt the weight of responsibility once again. "I want to thank everyone who has come together to support the family during this difficult time. It's heartwarming to see our community unite. This is a reminder that we all play a role in ensuring food safety and that vigilance is key," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. The journalist asked a series of questions, which Alex answered earnestly, emphasizing the importance of food safety regulations and how the community's response could help prevent future incidents. After the interview wrapped up, he felt a surge of relief. "Great job," Margaret said as they walked away from the cameras. "You conveyed your message perfectly." "Thanks, but I just hope it sticks with people," Alex replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "We need to ensure this doesn't happen again." As the day wore on, the family received numerous donations, and Alex felt a lightness in his heart. The sense of camaraderie was overwhelming. People were sharing their stories of food safety, discussing the importance of inspections, and the shared responsibility they all had in preventing crises. That evening, Alex and Margaret stayed late to help organize the supplies. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and heartfelt conversations, and it became evident that the community was healing together. "Alex, do you remember when we first started working here?" Margaret asked, her eyes sparkling with nostalgia. "Of course. You made me go through every single regulation manual," he teased. "Hey, I was just making sure you understood what we were getting into," she shot back, laughing. "Yeah, well, I never imagined we'd be dealing with something like this," he admitted, glancing around at the community members working side by side. "But seeing everyone come together like this, it's inspiring." Margaret nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It really is. It shows the strength of our community and the impact of our work. We have a responsibility to keep each other safe." "Exactly," Alex agreed, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "And if we can use this situation to educate others, to make them realize the importance of food safety, then it will have been worth it." As night fell, the volunteers began to disperse, but the sense of hope lingered in the air. Alex stood outside the distribution center, watching people leave with full hearts and arms loaded with supplies. "Let's keep this momentum going," he said, turning to Margaret. "If we can turn this situation into something positive, we can truly make a difference." Margaret smiled brightly. "Absolutely. We need to remember that our actions today can prevent future incidents." With determination in their hearts, they walked forward, ready to face whatever came next. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you updated on our efforts and how our community comes together in the face of challenges, Alex said, feeling a sense of pride in their work and the bond they were building with each other. As they walked into the night, the stars twinkled above them, a reminder of the vast universe they inhabited and the strength they found in one another. Together, they were more than just a community, they were a family, and they would continue to stand strong against any challenge that came their way. As the sun began to set over the Galactic Food Distribution Center, casting a warm glow over the bustling activity, Alex Rodriguez stood before a small podium, a sense of pride swelling in his chest.
Today marked a significant day not only for him but for the entire community.
The support that had poured in for the affected family was overwhelming, a testament to the resilience and unity of their society. Recognition for his efforts was not just a personal achievement, it was a collective victory for everyone who believed in food safety and public health. "Ladies and gentlemen," Alex began, his voice steady but filled with emotion as he faced a gathering of reporters, community members, and fellow inspectors. "I stand here today not just as a food inspector but as a member of a community that has shown incredible strength in the face of adversity." The crowd murmured in agreement, a wave of solidarity washing over them. He glanced down at the family that had been impacted by the contaminated shipment. They were seated in the front row, expressions of gratitude etched on their faces. The eldest daughter, a bright-eyed girl of about 10, smiled up at him, her innocence shining through. The sight of her gave Alex the courage he needed. "It's been a challenging time for all of us, but it's heartwarming to witness how we've come together to support one another." As he continued, he shared not only the story of the contaminated shipment but also the lessons learned throughout the ordeal. This incident was a reminder that our roles as food inspectors are not just about regulations and guidelines, they are about protecting lives. Every shipment we inspect has the potential to affect countless individuals, and it's our duty to ensure that they are safe. The crowd listened intently, some nodding in agreement while others captured his words on camera. Alex could feel the weight of their attention, a mix of responsibility and relief coursing through him. "I want to express my gratitude to everyone who stepped up during this crisis, from the healthcare professionals who monitored the affected family to the community members who rallied together to offer support. Your actions have shown that we are stronger together." He took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the faces before him, filled with determination. "We may have faced a potential plague, but together, we avoided it. This situation could have spiraled out of control, but thanks to our vigilance and commitment, we turned a moment of fear into an opportunity for education and growth." A reporter raised her hand, eager to ask a question. "Alex, what measures are being put in place to prevent such situations in the future?" Alex smiled, grateful for the opportunity to elaborate. "We are implementing stricter inspection protocols and increasing the frequency of checks on shipments from high-risk areas. Education will also play a vital role. We'll be hosting community workshops to raise awareness about food safety and how every individual can contribute to a safer food supply." As he spoke, he noticed a few community members whispering among themselves, clearly engaged in the discussion. It was a reminder that this issue resonated with everyone, and the importance of food safety was a shared concern. "Importantly," he continued, "we need to foster a culture of reporting any suspicious food items, no matter how small. If you ever notice something unusual, speak up. That simple action can save lives." The applause from the crowd was thunderous, filling the air with a sense of accomplishment. It was clear that they were not only celebrating Alex's efforts but also the spirit of collaboration that had emerged from the crisis. As the ceremony concluded, Alex was approached by the mayor, who extended his hand with a proud smile. "Alex, you've done a remarkable job. Today's recognition is well-deserved." "Thank you, Mayor," Alex replied, shaking his hand firmly. "But this is just the beginning. We have a lot of work ahead of us to ensure the safety of our food supply." The mayor nodded in agreement, his expression serious. "With you at the helm, I have no doubt we'll make significant strides." As the crowd began to disperse, Alex felt a tap on his shoulder. Turning around, he saw Margaret, his colleague and friend, beaming with pride. "You were incredible out there. The way you spoke about the community's role in food safety, truly inspiring." "Thanks, Margaret," he said, his heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without your support. You kept me grounded throughout this whole process." "You know I'll always have your back," she replied, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "Now, let's celebrate this victory." With laughter and shared stories, Alex and Margaret joined the gathering of friends and family in the nearby park, where a small celebration had been organized. The air was filled with the aroma of food from various stalls, laughter echoed, and children played joyfully. It was a stark contrast to the tension of the past weeks, and Alex savored every moment. As the evening progressed, Alex took a moment to step aside, watching the vibrant community around him. He realized that this experience had changed him not just as an inspector but as a person. The connections made, the lives impacted, and the lessons learned were invaluable. Alex called out a familiar voice, pulling him from his thoughts. It was the young girl from the family affected by the contaminated shipment. She approached him shyly, holding a small piece of art she had created, a colorful drawing of a happy family with a big sun shining above them. "I made this for you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex knelt to her level, touched by the gesture. "This is beautiful. Thank you so much." He carefully accepted the artwork, feeling the warmth of her gesture resonate within him. "I'll hang it in my office so I can always remember this moment." She smiled widely, her face lighting up with pride. "I'm glad. You helped us, and you're a hero." "No," he said gently, "I'm just someone who cares about food safety. We all have our roles to play, and you can be a hero too by always being careful about what you eat." She nodded seriously, her expression thoughtful. As they shared that moment, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, he realized that this was not just an end but the beginning of a journey toward a safer future. Comment what your favorite moment was and turn on notifications, he thought to himself, knowing that this story would continue to unfold in the hearts and minds of everyone present. They were not just a community, they were a family, committed to each other's safety and well-being. As Alex rejoined the celebration, surrounded by laughter and love, he felt an unwavering conviction that together, they could face any challenge that came their way. The bonds forged through adversity had made them stronger and more united, and he was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, knowing that vigilance in food safety was a shared commitment. The night was just beginning, and the stars above twinkled brightly, a promise of hope for the future.